Okay.
Yep.
We're back. So, Dalton, hi, hello.
Hello.
Very quickly, tell us about your week.
Also, got
Quicker!
watched 3 anime shows. They were all awesome. Go.
Okay, fantastic. So you literally didn't miss anything because all we were doing was the initial party's reaction to the muster for battle horns begin to blow. It's the only thing you've missed. And so I kind of said that you were probably one to go to the walls to find out what was going on, as opposed to, like, go do anything else. So that's where you and Farron are currently heading.
Okay.
When the horns begin to bellow. Anyway, we were viewing a scene in which Arkady and Hannibal were inside of the war room, quote unquote, in the Ruddy Sword Inn or Tavern, Ruddy Sword Tavern. And you guys had gathered that there was an enemy, and you asked the question, Arkady, how did you go with the making of a communication system, in which you guys succeeded on that?
Yes, so he wants to insert the idea out there to someone who might be able to act on it. Hey, we should use that new familiar network to see if we have any scouts out there who know anything about this.
Right, absolutely. And my cheeky comment, by the way, the one that started this whole mess of me disconnecting and having bad issues, was as long as the primary plan doesn't go down, you guys are fine. Because Jackson miserably failed his role to have a backup plan. So,
Good to know.
who would you...
right, that was with the trained birds?
Yeah, but instead of
Actually,
birds,
no,
he
they
decided moles were the best option
Moles.
because
Mole
they could...
Scouts.
Yeah, because they could travel underground and wouldn't be detected.
Let's be honest, he had 12% of the plan.
I got an email about my prostate.
That's as much useful as the mole plan.
Yeah, that's about as much information as I need to know about it as well.
I can't tell if it's prostate or prostate. Whatever.
Anyway, so who would you kind of seek out to say that to? I mean, you could walk up to Cahill and be like, listen, we've got this thing, maybe we can use it.
Unless there's anyone else present who might have actually been involved in organizing that network.
There is probably a representative of one or two of the orders here that have, like, kind of filed in at this point, right? In fact, one person that is probably here is... geez, I forgot the name of my own character. What did I name him? Let me scroll up here. The High Priest of Moor? What was his name? I forget. Something with a G, I believe.
Ricky Bobby.
No, that is incorrect.
Korthak or whatever.
When I restarted my modem, everything closed that I had open. So, please. His name is Garthun Haldarim, the High Priest of Moor. And also, the High Inquisitor is probably here as well. Bartholomew Mutton. Both of those individuals are probably here. There's also probably Hannibal with you is more than likely Robert Hunter, the head of the Bright Order. He's probably with you here at this time as well.
Alright.
And he definitely would have been involved, right? Like, both of those people definitely would have been involved. So yeah, or you could just, speak yourself. Not that it really matters, but,
Yeah.
for the sake of narrative, who brings the idea up?
I think the High Priest of Moor is someone that I've got a decent rapport with, who would need to be less briefed on what I'm suggesting than Cahill might.
Yeah, so you...
So, yeah, I will approach him and say, we have spellcasters and their familiars in place for exactly this purpose. Perhaps there is word to be gathered.
Yeah, and I think he kind of like looks at you and he nods once or twice and he says, "Ah, yes, that seems good. My lord." And he kind of like looks, and Cahill finishes listening to someone else and like turns and like, yes, High Priest. Perhaps we can use these familiars, this plan that Hannibal and Arkady have formulated to find out what we can about this particular enemy. And Cahill kind of nods and he says, "See to it, and report back with any information." And I think he also says to Garthun, he says, "Ensure that your peers are ready in case this is the undead." And I think you see the High Priest of War kind of nod, and his face kind of darkens, but almost like he's gritting his teeth a little bit, and he proceeds to depart. You guys could go help him, like, spread the word that that's going to happen, but the good news is, with the system that you guys have functioned, all you need is a familiar, right?
So yeah, I'm going to send my familiar out then.
Yeah, so you totally, you send
Dane.
Dane out, and he's like, "Fine, master, I will do it."
Lip on you.
Yeah, and he flutters away to go find out what information he can. Also relaying messages to other familiars who are of various stock, right? Not everybody has Fey familiars. There are probably some in the camp who have small animals as familiars. Owls are quite popular, but so are things like squirrels. There are... The things that are avoided are probably rats, right? Rats are probably avoided as familiars just because of the connotation with Skaven.
Yeah, also, my token is gone.
What token?
Me.
You're right there, right here. See you?
Oh, well, where did he go there? How did he get there?
Okay. Rats are probably avoided. Lizards are probably avoided too, just with the connotation of lizardmen, right? Like, stuff like that. Squirrels are quite popular. Dogs and cats are obviously quite popular. And in fact, in some of the orders of magic, and probably your biggest what's the word, ally in this whole like familiar juncture thing is going to be the, which one is it? The Jade Order, I believe. No, the Amber Order. The Amber Order are probably your biggest allies in this because they are the Order of Beasts. They compose of a lot of, if we're talking in like D&D class terms, a lot of rangers, a lot of druids, and they're going to have like the big, strong showing of the types of familiars and stuff. And so, in addition to regular scouts being set out, we see all of these small familiars, some invisible, some not, some like more kind of like in spirit form, because they're all varying makes and models, basically, as far as the mind can think, on small woodland or fey or, you know, generally good aligned creatures, begin also traveling across the plains to kind of seek out some information as well. So cool, yeah, you're using your advantage there to gain some perhaps information, but it's going to take perhaps an hour or so before we hear anything, because again, the edge of the vision range is a good 10 miles on a clear night, so it's probably going to be quite far. So let's jump over to Morella and Farron. So Morella and Farron, you reach the top of the walls, where you can see some men are like gazing out to the north. So what's the first thing you're going to do when you arrive there?
You said there was only some, like...
Yeah, it seems to be less than the normal complement that would be on the walls. There's perhaps 5 in eyesight along the walls right now.
Yeah, she probably glances at both sides, and she looks at Farron, and she's like, perhaps we should station more guards.
If they're planning a full-on assault, then we definitely want to indirect fire upon the walls.
Well, I am unsure whether we are defending the walls or taking the fight to them.
That is a great question, actually. Because as I mentioned earlier, it's not like everybody fits inside of the village, right? You're not fitting 7,000 people inside of the walls, so...
It's true.
But again, the idea of pulling back, using the walls as a buffer, and then charging in after is a thing, too, right? So, it's all about how you want to play it. But you still don't know what everybody is, like, what the issue... You don't know what the problem is yet, so how do you go about figuring that out?
She probably looks out for a bit, and obviously she can't fully see.
Yeah.
She sees something coming, and then...
Yeah, so you see the same image that we saw before with, like, the kind of the dull flickering of very far-off torchlight and campfires, right? Like, the kind of flickering light of fire. Way off in the distance, miles away, but it seems to stretch from as far to the left as you can see to as far as the right as you can see.
Yeah. And, I guess with that, like, after she looks at it for a bit, I look at Farron, and I'm like, Farron, go get word and tell me what is the plan.
Yes, my lady. I'll head off right now. As I...
Legolas slides down the stairs. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she probably, like, mentions to, like, a officer or whatever who's on the walls.
Yeah, there's probably a sergeant on the walls in command right now.
To gather more men on the walls. To start, at least.
Yeah, he
if
probably...
only, like, a little bit.
Yeah, he probably nods and says, I will gather what I can of my squad, my lady. And he gives you a bow.
Yeah. And she just stares off for a bit. Before looking off to find someone else that she can talk to.
Who are you trying to find, like, anyone specifically, or a rank specifically, or just wander
One
until
of the
somebody
key
speaks?
figures, such as party members
Okay, sure.
someone else.
Sure, yep, cool. So, over at the hospital, Aelin, you've begun rallying the troops, and Daniela joins you approximately 10 minutes later with her plate armor strapped on, and is assisting you in kind of coordinating everything. And when there's, like, a momentary lull where, like, it's kind of all done, right? Like, you rolled so well on your previous organization that everything goes much more smoothly in this instance. Who knows? If something significant changes, maybe we'll have a bit more deterioration. But for now, everything's running great. And Daniela probably approaches you and she says, Aelin, should we perhaps find out what is actually going on? And to the no response, she nods and proceeds to go find out what is going on for Aelin. Can everyone else hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. Okay.
I want to say something happened to Megan.
Can I get a Megan check, guys, please? Appreciate it.
All right, I'll spam her.
Anyway, I lied when I said at the hospital. Out on the fields where Kree you still are, you begin organizing the lizardmen, but again, it's a little confusing. There's kind of like some trampling going on, and I actually want you to roll me a manipulation check to see how well organized you can kind of gather everybody before, chaos kind of hits the ranks. So roll me a manipulation check using whatever method you want. Jackson, we can hear your control V.
Yeah, I'm just saying as over and over again.
Okay, I'm using my inspiration on this because I'm bad at
Manipulation checks.
manipulation.
That's a good inspiration use, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, so a 13 is average, right? Like it's not great. It's not horrible. So it's about average. And so you're able to kind of like get all the men, like all the people that are integrated, because remember, you integrated most of your forces with like the rest of the men, so it's not only lizardmen that you're like commanding and instructing, right? And you're recognized as an officer basically in among the ranks, and so you're able to coordinate the cavalry quite well. The skinks, who are scouts by themselves, are coordinated quite well with a couple of the great crests at their head, and also you probably pick up some of the foot soldiers units as well, because they're integrated with like a lot of lizardmen, and they like woke up and they didn't know, and you were the closest available like officer, right? And so you have a little bit of a diverse kind of smattering of forces arrayed in front of you. And so at that juncture, what do you do?
So they're kind of getting organized now, but they're still kind of running about.
The people that are within your like direct vicinity are organized, right? Everybody's like, you know, getting their armor on or has their armor on, and you know, getting horses and cold ones, you know, mounted and stuff like that. Like everybody within your direct vicinity is
gotcha. So I'm gonna tell my officers to spread out and start readying the rest of the troops around us, since I can only do what's close to me at the moment.
Okay, yeah. So you start giving the orders to kind of branch out from where your rally point is, right? Mm-hmm. It's true. Okay, excellent. I think that a couple of the Great Crests come up to you. They say, "Leader, perhaps we should send a unit to go find out what is going on."
I would, but if it is an attack, we need everyone here, and the others of my party are already on top of that. They have a system in place. We will know shortly.
Yeah, totally. And I think that they look at each other and they nod to you, and kind of fall back into the ranks and back to what they were doing. Oh, don't worry. There's unicorns. They're just all evil, and you have to kill them.
Fuck
Unicorns
yeah!
are evil. They're part of the beastmen.
True. Hi, Megan.
Hi, sorry, I literally have no idea what happened. But
That's happened to me before, where like I'm still in Discord and I can hear everything, but it won't talk. Yeah, it just
like,
disconnects.
I'm pressing the button
Yep.
and like it wasn't lighting up. I don't know, whatever.
Did you get my spam?
Oh, I got your spam. I got Dalton's spam. I got Will's spam.
I did.
I said
You
one
thought
message.
that I died.
I said
I
one
appreciate
message.
all of y'all concern.
I did call for a Megan check, so I mean that's.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I said one message.
I'm
asking
kidding,
you
I'm kidding.
muted your mic.
Yes, it's fine.
So did you have any input on when Daniela came to you and said, we should probably find out what's actually going on?
Yes, I agreed with her.
Okay, all right. That's what I assumed, but you know.
Put the appropriate people in charge, and obviously went to go see my bae.
Okay, so you're both gonna go. You're both gonna go. Okay, cool. Yeah. So you guys head off. So you arrive probably kind of late to the party, right? In the room, you can see probably Arcadia is still there. Hannibal, you went out to like assist with the coordination of the message system, right? Or are you still inside of the war room area?
I'm still inside. That's what I sent Dane.
Okay, you sent Dane on a scouting mission. Okay, cool. So you see those two in there, and you see, again, there's a lot of people, as I described before, kind of milling to and from. So when you enter, there's like people turn and look to see who entered, and Daniela kind of walks in, and she's shadowing you very closely. And probably who would be the most appropriate person? Oh, I know who the most appropriate person is. And so like after the door opens and everybody kind of looks and like, okay, we know that person, goes back to their assumed business. You feel a hand kind of rest on your shoulder, Aelin. And you turn and look, and in the shadows, kind of, skulking out as she does, you see Mel.
Yeah.
And she kind of gives you, like, a little head nod to, like, follow her.
Yeah, I think Aelin would call her out if she's, being shady. Just say, Mel, what is it? I haven't spoken to you in a while. Have you heard? Not moving from my spot.
Yeah, and Daniela also now notices when you speak out. And she kind of turns and kind of glowers in Mel's direction. And Mel just, like, shakes her head and says, Priestess, we must speak. Feel free to bring your companion.
Yes, let's not waste time.
Yeah, and so you guys go off into the kitchen area where there are, like, servants bustling to and from. And as you walk in, you see the servants as they see Mel. They give her, like, a very polite nod and then bustle about their business as she's passing them. And Mel kind of walks over to, like, the sacks of grain that are sitting in the corner that are, like, prepped to go on the supply carts. And she sits down on them and, like, kind of props a foot up. And she looks very intensely at you, almost as if she's, like, not her typical kind of playful demeanor. And she says, I think there is something to this attack we are preparing for, but I can't put my finger on it. I need your help with it.
Yes, in any way I can help. What's going on?
Typically, I would ask Hannibal, as he is perhaps more appropriated to these sorts of things, but I think this requires some divine knowledge. Here, let me show you something. And she reaches into her pouch and produces this small spinning top. It looks, basically like just a general. It's a little bit weighted at the bottom, and then obviously filed in a cone shape for the base of it. And she holds it kind of between her forefinger and thumb, and she shows it to you, and it looks unremarkable. As an object, just you observing it. And she's like, basically, imagine that. She begins spinning it, and you're inside the dream.
Damn it!
No! So she shows it to you, and it looks, like I said, unremarkable. And she says, do you know what this is?
I would say a top, but I assume it is more than that.
She goes, it is an Alveradon. You don't recognize... Well, actually, what languages do you speak?
The only two that I think would be applicable here are Common and Halfling.
Okay. So you don't know what she says, just the word. And she then translates into Common. She says... It is, in common translation, it is hard, but perhaps sacred relic would be the closest applicable term.
And where did you come across this sacred relic?
Yeah, and I think she says, she's like, I come across many things in my line of work, least among them trinkets.
Yes, well, how can this help us?
I need you to hold on to this for me.
Hold on to it?
Yes. It is a indicator of sorts.
An indicator of what?
As far as I can tell, powerful divine forces.
Aelin kind of pauses.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, she's kind of like all of a sudden a tiny bit nervous.
Yeah, and I think that Mel picks up on it and she says, "Oh, it has nothing to do with the power that you or your goddess wield."
Aelin gives a slight nod.
She says, it is most useful for identifying when opposing forces are near or perhaps acting in certain ways. I fear that with it in my possession, I would not make the best use of it.
Aelin kind of holds out her hand and just says, well, sure, if you think I can use it.
Yeah, and she takes it and she kind of sets it in your hand, and you notice as it sets in your hand, it stands straight up. It doesn't topple over or fall.
Aelin like holds it towards her face and just says, remarkable. Just kind of looks at it.
Yeah, and I think that it's probably at that moment that that Daniela kind of steps forward and addresses Mel, kind of towering over here as in her seated position. And she probably says to Mel, she says, "You have preyed upon my priestess's curiosity this time. I'm afraid that we will need much more information before I am liable to allow this to happen." And Mel kind of like looks at her, and you can tell that like the weight has kind of fallen off of the serious tone has kind of fallen, and she kind of like looks up at Daniela without a hint of fear in her eye, and she says, "Well, I believe that the High Priestess is capable of making her own decisions and does not need a babysitter." And you could like, from standing like kind of slightly behind Daniela, you can feel like the waves of just like emotion coming off of her. And while she's always been kind of quick to anger, she would never raise a hand against anybody, right? But like, you kind of get the feeling if Mel pushes her luck here, there may be a confrontation that you don't want to witness.
Yeah, I think knowing Daniela, Aelin, after she's done looking at the artifact, I think she would just, no, ladies, it's fine. We really must figure out what else is going on. There's much to be done.
Yeah, and I think that Mel says, well, it's simple, isn't it? It is one of two things. It is either a decoy in order to frighten us and keep us here longer, or it is a force arrayed against us that must be fought.
Either way, we need to figure it out. Is this all?
I think she smiles and just nods, and she says, yes, thank you.
Aelin takes it and cautiously puts it in her pocket and just says, thank you, Mel. Now, let us return. But she like stares at Mel for a bit longer than just normal.
Do you want to roll an insight check?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go for it. Mel's great at this, though, so it's going to be hard, but
I know.
you
I
can
have
nail
beat
it.
her once before.
You have beaten her once before. This is true.
Use your inspiration.
Ooh.
I don't even think the inspiration would have...
Yeah, the inspiration I don't think would have helped in that instance either.
Whoa.
Yeah, so she seems pleased, and she also seems to be relieved at how well this has gone.
Oh, yes, I'm sure she has. All right.
She took the curse shit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, yeah. So Aelin, being Aelin and trusting of everyone, would return back.
Which is probably why Mel targeted you, but you know, whatever.
Shocker, I know.
So I think that as you walk out, Daniela like grips your shoulder kind of hard and bends down and whispers in your ear, and she goes, "We must get that thing checked out. I do not trust that woman."
Of course. I'll have Hannibal look at it.
That is wise. For all of his shortcomings, he is at least loyal and dedicated to his work. And I don't believe he would harm us intentionally. And then, like, just, you know, in the moment she says intentionally, we just all remember this.
The house. Da, 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 da,
I got
da.
Will.
The fire gets bigger every time.
I got Will. That's the important part.
Yep.
So
I've got
yes,
you found, don't worry.
you proceed out and join the rest of the rabble that's going on. Hannibal, as you're waiting in there, Robert, the head of the Bright Order, kind of comes up to you, and he kind of like leans in. You know, like you're both like looking into the middle of the room, and he kind of like leans in a little bit and talks to you in a lower tone of voice, and he says, "What do you make of this, Hannibal?"
Well, it's odd.
Which part of it? The fact that there is a force so far south, or the fact that we are so caught off guard by it?
Both, but it's just strange. Because one of the things that I had looked for before was the fact that they might be teleporting in, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that was one of the ways that they could get a huge army there, why wouldn't they do it closer? Why have they given us time to prepare against them?
That is concerning.
Oh no, this whole thing seems very strange.
Yes, well, I guess we can't believe everything we read in books.
No,
Are simply things we just do not understand yet.
that's true. In fact, I'd rather go look for myself. Are there any people of the Order that know the spell Fly?
Jeez.
Am I-
What level spell is that?
It's like third.
I mean, probably. Actually, yes. There is definitely a member of the Amber Order that would know Fly. 100%.
Yeah, so I would request that maybe we should get some of our scouts a little bit of fly time. That could probably help advance scouting time. Also, and then I'm probably going to mention this to Cahill too when I get a chance. I do have a way of slowing down a very large army.
You do indeed.
So yeah, in fact, I'm going to approach Cahill and say that.
Okay. So you walk up and find a moment, right, in between 20 other people talking to him. And he's like, "Ah, Hannibal, it is good to see you, my friend. What is it?"
I just came to inform you that I have a way of stopping a very large force.
I think I'm going to need you to define stopping. You understand, I am not a man of magic.
I am able to use a spell that increases growth. For about 400 feet across, I can make a large swath of land that will require a great amount of time to pass.
Yes, indeed, that would definitely aid in our, inevitable defense of this place, but where and when would this be most useful?
Probably
Does
be
not
most
seem
useful.
quite large enough to delay a force, but
It's good for making choke points, because one of the things I can do with it is I can cut out areas. So I can either force, I can make it so that there's while it's very dense on one side, I can make it sparse on the other, allowing our forces to basically move in and create choke points along the way.
interesting. Is this something that can be used to conceal as well?
That would be up to you to decide. It's Jordan.
Yeah.
Could it? Yeah.
I
so
mean, he's
yes.
asking you, your knowledge of the spell, would it be something that would allow?
I believe it would, mainly for the fact that it just causes huge overgrowth.
Perhaps this will be useful in an ambush scenario.
Mhm.
Or perhaps it will cause whatever force we are arrayed against to investigate this sudden area of magic.
All right.
I will take this into
I'll-
consideration.
Okay.
Have we heard news from our scouts yet?
Have we?
No. He's just
No.
asking you. Very well. Please inform me when we have some.
Hannibal's not sure how he feels being treated like a patsy, but he'll let it slide for now.
I mean, it's your communication system, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
So, like, you are kind of the go-to man for it.
Yeah, no, now Hannibal is feeling very much regret for doing this.
Yeah.
Now people are going to ask him to do shit, and he's not going to want to.
Yep. That is precisely correct.
Damn it, Arcada, you fucked me.
I mean, I guess? Regardless,
Question mark.
Arcadu's kind of surprised they don't actually have, apparently, any scouts out there in the field right now. Like, we haven't sent any groups north prior to now.
I mean, we probably have. We have not heard back from them yet. And it's also... So, like, here's the thing. Middenstag is set upon the top of a hill. And so if scouts may not realize what's out there yet. Because Middenstag is one of the high points in this plateau of area, right? And so scouts may be on their way back to report, but they were probably not so far afield that they, like, ran into whatever this is.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
So do I think that it might actually be worth sending out people on foot, or are the familiars going to have a better chance of getting information back to us?
Familiars will probably have a better chance of getting information back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, at this point. That's kind of their jobs at this point, which is taking a lot of risk off of the soldiers.
And has there been any decisions or questions about how we're running this defense yet? Are people talking about dragging people back inside the walls, or trying to fight?
Yeah, so the two options are basically it's all kind of reliant on what we're dealing with, right? But the two kind of factions in the room, or the mindsets in the room, are we should pull back from Middenstag, and keep like the minimal amount of people and soldiers here to bait them into a bad position where fighting is going to be a lot easier. And then the second mindset is, depending on what it is, perhaps we should go out and meet them. We should move now, go out and meet them on grounds that are more favorable to us, as opposed to waiting for them to encroach upon our space. And it all, again, that kind of really depends on what the heck this is. But both options are kind of applicable in most scenarios.
Right. Okay. I think Arcadi would be making the case that they should be following, like, whichever route they should not be just waiting right now. They should prepare in some way in advance if they can, and that would mean go with whichever is going to be easier to reverse course on if that's necessary. So sending people out of the city seems, that is the case that he would make. Sending people out of the city is overly dangerous, runs the risk of running into another ambush out there if that is what they're doing here. Since, as Hannibal has pointed out, if they are teleporting around, they have very clearly let us see them coming.
Right. Yeah. Maybe the point is to get everybody away so that they can come up from behind you, right? Like,
yeah.
Maybe that is the juncture. Okay, so
for that matter, have we sent scouts south, or?
Yeah. So remember, Kree actually led a scouting party, kind of to find his own men, but also
Right.
Because there are scouting parties to the south, and probably for the last few iterations, they have reported nothing of note.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah, Arcadi will be the joining the side of people saying fortify the city.
Okay, batten the hatches and wait for more information.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I think that side is decidedly larger than the minority of we should go out and meet them on the fields, right? Mostly because the meet them on the fields option is a bit more rash, especially with the lack of information. Battening the hatches can allow you some more time to figure out what the heck you're supposed to do after you receive that information. So, Farron, where do you go to figure stuff out? Do you go to the war room where everybody is gathered?
Yes, indeed, because I'm now trying to figure out what that exact plan we're going to be doing is. So.
Yeah, so when you enter, you hear, kind of the cacophony of voices speaking like, we should put together the knights. The knights should ride out and, meet them. And, then there's the side that Arcadia is sided with being like, no, that's a bad idea. Like, we should fortify our position. We need to wait for more information. We might be walking into an ambush. You probably see, Hannibal and the head of the Bright Order kind of along the side, off to the side somewhere, kind of like speaking together. You see Aelin and Daniela kind of sitting at a table, maybe a little bit off. Maybe they're speaking or whatever, and just kind of there. And then Arcadia is probably at a chair. I would assume, Arcadia, you're probably closer to the actual war table than the rest of the group.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of right up in the mix.
Yeah. Keeping people from making terrible decisions, but if he spots Farron, he'll wave him over.
Okay. Yeah, you probably do. You're attentive.
Naturally being drawn to stand beside him.
Okay.
Farron, good to see you here. Where is Lady Fairheart?
She's still on the northern wall, keeping an eye on the situation.
I had expected that she would be out in the field charging them directly.
She's not a complete fool.
No, but some fraction thereof. We have sent scouts. We are fortifying the walls. We are keeping the people inside the town. Beyond this... I do not care for the number of surprises we are encountering in this campaign.
It's certainly more than you would expect. But I take it we haven't decided on a single plan of attack yet.
Not until we know what it is we are fighting. There is great concern of this, but the familiars will gather information from scouts faster than any expedition could rush out to face them.
I mean, should the need arise, I could always set out myself and take to the skies.
Yeah, you could have that, but I suspect you would be more obvious target than any of the many familiars. I would prefer you not
myself into a eagle.
I would prefer you not fall to your death in the night in a field. It's personal preference, I know, but I am recommending.
Aye. Alright, I'll stay put for now.
Well, I feel... if we are holding the city, then the greatest threat will be, if that is what they are intending, if they expect us to outguess ourselves, which I hate. No point in thinking about this, or in some ambitious and audacious leader of people attempt to take forces outside.
Just as a point of reference, what are the walls like in this?
They are pretty much simple wooden walls.
Okay.
They probably have stone foundation, just so they don't blow over, but they're not going to hold back very much. They will be more of a slow down, not a stop. More of a speed bump, not a wall. But to be fair, it does provide an advantage, regardless.
Yeah, of course. It's just We can't just camp inside and pepper them with arrows for all eternity.
Not forever. This is true, but we have some time before they arrive. Perhaps those of us more devious and capable, such as yourself, might find ways to make the battlefield less hospitable to newcomers.
I'm sure we can come up with a few hidden tricks.
Hannibal is itching to cause agricultural disaster for our enemies.
That's a word for it.
You may wish to talk to him.
Aye. Where's he at right now?
Somewhere that way. Hannibal!
The fuck you want?
There he is.
I have found
I
him.
imagine a more proper greeting would be something along the lines of like, wildcats. I just see something like that being
Oh, God.
Hannibal.
What?
Yes.
You'll be getting my vote for inspiration.
Seems great. Okay. Yeah, so you can go speak with Hannibal, obviously. That is the thing you choose to do.
Yeah. Start devising some traps we can put in place.
Hilarious pratfalls.
Yeah, so the Benny Hill brigade is currently working on traps. But I think that that's probably the appropriate moment that Hannibal... I would say maybe about an hour passes. And during this time, everybody's doing their respective business, getting everything in order, and Hannibal, you finally receive a message from Dane, and he goes, "Master,
What's up, bitch?
there is a force arrayed. They look to be perhaps 3,000 strong.
Can you determine what kind of creatures they are?
Without putting myself and others in danger, there appears to be men among the forces. They have great hounds with them. We can
Men
see
with-
that there are mounts of some sort, but they are perhaps magical in orientation."
Men with great mouths that are magical. Is any of this ringing a bell to me?
I mean, men with hounds and horses that seem magical, or mounts that seem magical.
Does this sound like any army I know?
Well, so if we recall, we know that there are supposedly men allied with Anders, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
The Norsemen, right?
Yeah.
They are supposedly allied with Anders.
Okay, so in that case, I'll go up to Cahill and be like, "We received word."
Yeah, and I think a hush probably falls over the people that hear you say this. And Cahill looks at you and he says, "Yes, Hannibal, speak."
It's a 3,000-man army with giant hounds, men, and magical beasts.
Describe these magical beasts. What do they appear to be?
Dane. Dude, I was to put a finger to my temple.
And he probably replies and he says, "They appear to be horses. Perhaps they're actually skeletal in nature."
Skeletal horses, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think that, kind of, the hush kind of dies over the room, right? And then there's some, whispering back and forth, did he say skeletons? Did he say skeletal? Like that. And Cahill's face kind of hardens and he nods and he says, "Where are we to assume that these men ride these horses?"
Obviously, I'm guessing... Hold on. Dane.
Yeah, and Dane
What
says...
direction are they heading?
So Dane probably says, It appears they are encamped at this time. They also show no signs of knowing that anything is aware of their presence.
It appears that they've encamped for the moment, but it seems like they don't act like... They're acting as though they don't believe anybody knows they're here.
Yeah, and Cahill probably looks at you and he says, "That is interesting.
Yes, quite.
Do these men, you stated they are Norsemen, are they known to be perhaps of a lesser intelligence?"
I would know Norsemen,
Yeah.
wouldn't I?
Yep, absolutely.
You hold on, stop. You're getting
Uh-oh.
Keep on talking.
Hello?
Yeah, just go ahead and I'll stop you if you start.
Okay.
What would I know based on like my time in Norska?
Yeah, I mean, Norsemen are not inherently stupid. They have the average intelligence of all humans. They are far more vicious than your run-of-the-mill Empire soldier, though.
I dump this.
Yeah, and so Cahill probably says, so they are barbarians. Interesting. It is possible that they do not believe that they are weak against anything.
Could I make a check of some kind to kind of reason out this Norse thinking?
Yeah, I think it's a history check.
Boom.
Not bad. 24. Yeah, Norsemen are brutish warriors. They don't put a whole lot of work into scouting or into knowledge of information. They don't care so much. They are kind of pointed at a target and flung from the bow until they strike their target. So yeah, they're not particularly...
They're not into the information war.
Yeah, right, yeah, they're not particularly, what's the word I'm looking for?
Planners?
Tacticians, there you go, yeah. They're not particularly into tactics, but they make up for that in just brute, aggressive strength.
Also, there are some of them that have mutations.
Yes, this is true.
So I would say this to him, that to be honest, it could range from another things they might not know how far away they are. They might not care.
Right. Yeah, definitely they might not care. Like, they might know that Middenstag is here, or that there's an army in front of them, because you guys are producing just as much light pollution as they are.
Yeah, so I'd probably say the most likely reason is they just don't care.
Yeah, and I think that he kind of smiles and shakes his head and he says, "Well then, what is to stop us from making them care?"
The only thing that's really notable about them in terms of combat, they're vicious. They are tough. You see Hannibal kind of trails off a bit as he thinks of the time when he got captured.
Mm-hmm.
And goes, I would not want to go toe-to-toe with them again, personally. But I would like to kill more than a couple.
So he kind of nods and he says, so perhaps a stand-up fight is not advised.
If I may, good lord.
Yeah, and you hear the collection of eyes and movements turn towards Farron when he speaks.
If we are up against cavalry, then, of course, having a thick overgrowth from Hannibal's magic will, of course, be advantageous to us, as well as collecting as many spearmen as we can to take the brunt of the charge. And after that, we should be in a good position to clean up, as it were.
Yeah, and I think that Kale kind of nods and he says, yes, this is a good plan, but it seems as though... You said these beasts, they are mounts, and if they form a cavalry, well, we don't know the capabilities of them. Have you heard of anything like this before? And he kind of, when he says that, he kind of like addresses the magic community in the room.
Can I make an Arcana check?
Sure.
You know what? Fuck it. Tides of Chaos, assist me.
Good. That's a good Tides of Chaos, I think. Yeah, so, it is not uncommon for large groups of undead warriors to, or I should say, necromancers, to raise warhorses, skeletal warhorses, right, for their mounts as well as mounts of their armies. And in the amount that these are, it is more likely that they are not imbued with any particularly special powers besides being undead.
So I say this.
Okay. Yeah, and Cahill nods and he says, well then we can meet horse with horse, if need be. But spearmen typically are better against the flesh of our horses. How effective do you believe they would be against this skeletal horde?
I would know this. Would I just know this? I know this as a person. Bludgeoning.
Sure, yeah. So you say perhaps
I say
bludgeoning?
that.
Yeah.
Can I say this?
Sure.
Well, they have no flesh. They have nothing to really hit. It's harder. Maybe ditch the spears and get a hammer.
Hammers. Interesting.
I think at this point, Aelin had been listening the whole time and not saying anything.
Yeah.
And then I think at this point she'd speak up and she said, if they are truly undead, then the clerics can take care of them.
Yeah, and I think again, we hear the turning of chairs and heads, because Aelin, you're probably sitting like a little bit in the back of the room.
Oh yeah, not at the table.
Yeah, and everybody kind of like turns and we see the heads like bob back and forth. And Cahill smiles and he nods and he says, yes, that would be most useful. Thank you, High Priestess. Interesting. Well then, we at least have more information on them than they do of us. How will we capitalize on this? Again, he's kind of addressing the room.
I would like to catch them off guard, personally.
I see. So perhaps mustering a force to hit them swiftly and soon.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that it would be great for our armies to clash at full force.
Skirmishers, then.
Lightly equipped, perhaps more maneuverable, get in, get out, perhaps harry them, the berserkers, as they attempt to chase and
easily lost in the dark.
This seems good. And he kind of like looks around the room, and you can tell he's looking for someone. And we don't see, like, he kind of like looks around and he's gazing, and he's like, has anyone seen Kree? And then I think we flash outside to Kree. You have like you've like gathered up a bunch of troops, right? And you're kind of like organizing people, and you and other officers like of your equivalent rank are like have like formed, you know, some ranks, and you have like all of the and you're kind of riding on Noct to and from. And Noct kind of sniffs the air, like you see him like raise his head. And you begin to hear a sound, and it sounds like somebody is screaming, but from very far away, and it's just like, ah! And then you hear a sickening crunch on the ground in front of you, and Noct kind of like leaps back a little bit, and we see that there is a vaguely humanoid figure. You can tell just barely that it is a scout, because of the snapped bow, and you can tell like he's got a compound fracture in his legs, and and he's like bleeding out and coughing up blood, and is like he passes out, and there's a man who runs up to him and like kind of like, you know, grabs him. And we see he just kind of, like, with the last of his strength, he kind of, like, points up. And Kree, you look up, and you can see that kind of arrayed above you at a very, maybe, you know, maybe 500 feet up, maybe 1,000 feet up. There is this cloud of angry-looking flying forms. And we hear these nasty screeches as they begin to descend upon you. And we know these creatures to be harpies. And so when that occurs, we also see there's a man like riding towards the inn, and he like bursts in through the door, and so we see everybody else arrayed as he bursts in through the door. And he comes like screaming in and panting, and like everybody again turns and looks at him, and he goes. It's one of the townsmen, one of the town guards. He goes, "Harpies. They're in the tents."
What?
And you can see like the group of individuals like get up, and like there's this moment, and then the last thing we, sorry, what?
I immediately burst past him the moment he says that.
Yeah. And we see Morella standing outside, like standing on the walls, and a few more men and women have arrived to kind of man the walls. And Morella, you hear this commotion begin to happen, and you gaze off and you see the harpies begin swarming down on the tents. I assume you pull your spear and begin charging in that direction. But that's probably a great place to take a break.
Harpies.
So, yeah. The harpies are going to harass you a bit.
So it seems.
I thought they were gonna be unicorn.
Yeah,
Well, we don't
I'd
all
be
get what we want.
Flock of fucking unicorns to send it apart.
Pegasus.
Pegasus.
Because at that point, you realize you're on the wrong side.
True.
We've actually plane shifted the entire old world into a different realm, and now there's just unicorns that run around everywhere.
And Kieran.
And Kieran, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, a theme song plays in the distance.
Yeah. So let's take a quick break. Let's be back at 5 after. Sound good for everybody? And then we'll get into this skirmish with harpies, as well as the inevitable assault of the Norsemen.
I want to kill some Norsemen so bad.
So we'll be back in just a minute.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
You said 05?
05. Yep, 5 after.
Okay.
Alright, stream. Sorry about the droppages. Nothing I can do about it right now. I'm going to have to call and get that all unfuckered. But in the meantime, glad you guys could be here. And we're going to go ahead and take a quick little break. I'll move everybody over here. Boom. And we're going to do this. 20:05.